This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
This is going to feel so weird.
It's so weird.
I can open and go to you if you would like, but I also think it could be fun to just have you open.
Are you ready?
I'm ready if you are.
Well, this is a different show for sure. Usually I'm not the one opening this. Normally it's B opening the show. But this is what you're going to get for this episode of the Practice Squad. I'm your host, Adam Strozinski, and doing it with me as always. He's the one. He's the only. He is the Brendan Riley.
Wow, I don't give you that kind of intro.
No, but I mean, I'm going to do it for you. So it's what we do. We got a little bit of a different show. Like, as you can see, I'm opening the show.
That's all different.
It's totally different. What we've got planned. Have you ever missent an email? Have you ever had a bad butt dial? Have you basically ever gone all John Gruden but not used racial epithets? We're going to talk about that later on in the show. But to get this whole thing kicked off, when we were show prepping, B sent me something that I found fascinating. He feels like the Detroit Lions have had damn near a perfect season. And B, I want you to explain yourself because I think this is really, really interesting. I don't know if any Detroit Lions fan feels like it's been a damn near perfect season with everything that's gone on.
There was a major exception to that statement.
Yeah, it was without the injuries.
Which is a huge part of it. Injuries to Okudah and Okwara specifically, because they're Achilles injuries to guys who you were hoping, whether or not you believed in them, were hoping they'd be a major part of your rebuild. Those aside, what did you want from this season? I mean, I guess you could say in Magic Land, you hoped Jared Goff was good. And I did. I'll say that. I hoped Jared Goff was good. But in the reality world, I knew that wasn't a thing. I knew that Jared Goff was a bad quarterback. So you saw the real Jared Goff. And there's value in that, too. I mean, I don't know how the regime's going to look at it, but I look at it and say, this guy sucks. He's not your future, and I'm glad we already know that. You lost all 5 games, so it's going to help the draft stock. You weren't going to be a playoff team. And I think, for the most part, the team is I don't think this roster is capable of giving you more than they have. I think that this roster is really bad. They've got some, I'll say this, they have some good pieces, but they have them at the least valuable spots in football. They have 2 really good running backs. The offensive line is valuable, but if you actually look at the way they're being graded, they're a pretty good run blocking offense, and they're not a very good pass blocking offense. And that's really it. You got nothing on defense. Your quarterback sucks. And they've still been in 4 out of the 5 games. I think with the right quarterback, there's a shot you're 3-2 right now. And I think you're definitely 2 and 3 at least. You're still a playoff contender with a good quarterback. And I don't think that's where this roster belongs. So I don't know. I look at it. I don't know what more you wanted. And I'm going to go here too. The coaching. He's a rookie coach. I don't expect him to look the exact same way after year 2 as I do in year 1. But I think if there was one thing you could critique Dan Campbell for, it's that he's a little bit too aggressive. And if there's one problem I want my coach to have, it's that he's a little bit too aggressive. I just don't know.
You love Jim Schwartz. You loved Jim Schwartz when he was the head coach of the Detroit Lions.
Sure. I mean, I did. I would also say I very much recognized it was time for him to go.
I love Jim Schwartz too. And same thought process. You love the aggressiveness.
And I have a lot of I will always appreciate what he was for the organization because I don't know if it's I think it's because of when I grew up. I think it's because I grew up in the Millen era. How old were you in the Millen era?
I was
2000. I don't know the full span of it. I know it ended in 2008. It was 8 years maybe. So maybe 2000 to 2008.
I think that was 2008. So 2008 I was 2001. I graduated high school. So
you were growing up to an extent, but this is my introduction. I was
mid-20s.
This is my introduction to Lions football. And my introduction to Lions football was so low. And look at where it is now and where it was through the Patricia era for that matter.
Yeah.
It's so low. So I'll always have an appreciation for Jim Schwartz of being a guy who really elevated the Lions. He only made 1 playoff appearance, but as long as Jim Schwartz was in control, you felt like you were playing for the playoffs. And I think a lot of that was Matt Stafford, but I'll always appreciate that about Jim Schwartz, even though it was clear he didn't have it.
I would love to disagree with you on a lot of what you said, but I can't because the same thing that you said, what did you expect from this team? Going into the season, we didn't really have any expectations. I think what everybody wanted to see was growth. You wanted to see growth from players. You wanted to see growth from units. And I know specifically for me, I wanted to see the growth of the head coach. And I was on this show 2 weeks ago, and I was on this show last week, and I was crucifying this guy because I just couldn't wrap my head around the way he was calling a game. And then you fast forward to what took place on Sunday, and me and you were messaging a little bit. I love the way he called the game.
Well, I specifically, I texted you after he went for 2, or I think I texted you at the end of the game, but it was because he went for the win.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, are you still on a cliff? Because I thought you loved that. And you know what's funny? I file that under a little bit too aggressive.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
I don't know that I critique it. The reason I think I'm cool with it in that situation specifically is because you're clearly the inferior team, and going to overtime is not a good spot to be. But where analytics would critique you is being up by 1 when the other team gets the ball back anyways isn't that big of a deal. They get the ball back with 40 seconds and 2 timeouts. Analytics would tell you, hey, if you get this, there's still a really good chance you lose. And if you fail, you definitely lose. So this is a really weird time. So I file it under a little too aggressive, but overall I was pretty happy with it because I don't think they had a shot in overtime. I
didn't either. It was weird because in that game, there were points where he settled for field goals, where Dan Campbell took the field goal because it was there. And it kept the team in the game up until the point where the offense kind of got going and they were able to score a touchdown. And then when it came time for the decision for 2 points, I was like, smart money says kick the field goal. But I was like, whatever. Like you said, obviously this is the inferior team, and you have a play that you love. Go execute it. And they executed it.
They threw the ball, didn't they?
Yeah.
Does that bother you?
No.
It bothered you 2 weeks ago.
It did. It's not like I'm so bipolar with this team right now.
It's too
But
emotional.
I absolutely love what took place on Sunday. And I think what you've seen a rookie head coach grow up from what took place in week 3 and what took place in week 4 and then what you got in week 5.
Can I pause you just a little bit there?
Yeah.
I would say with confidence he's going to piss you off again this year. And it's not necessarily because of him, but it's because of you. You are ready to explode at a moment's notice, and it's going to happen again because he's aggressive and he's going to make some wild calls. Whether or not I agree with them, he's going to set you off again.
Can I tell you about what was going on when I was watching basically that final little bit of what took place? Like the team scoring the touchdown, the team going for 2, and then the ensuing field goal drive from Minnesota. Melissa's in the kitchen. I'm in the living room. I'm watching the game. And I was like, this team's going to trick around and score. Watch them score. They score. I'm pumped up. I'm like, oh, yeah, all right, here we go. I was like, might as well just go for 2. I even said it a lot. I was like, might as well go for 2. Why the hell not?
Were you rooting for them to win?
Yeah.
See, what's so tough is this is where I was. I was rooting for them to drive down the field, score. I kind of wanted them to miss a 2-point conversion, but I also kind of didn't want to have the discourse again for the 3rd week in a row, which don't be wrong. Maybe me and you wouldn't have the discourse, but it would be happening.
Yeah. In your group message for sure.
Yeah, it would be happening. So I kind of didn't want that, but I was like, I don't know. I want them to score. I want to see them succeed, but I very much was rooting for the drive down the field for the win, and I'm thankful we got it. And honestly, you were taken aback by my message that this has been close to perfect. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I'm able to root for them to do things well late in the game and still have them lose. It happened against Baltimore too. Twice I've gotten to root for the Lions to do things well. They've done it, and then they ended up losing on some BS.
Yep.
And BS doesn't mean they got unlucky. It just means
no.
I'm sorry, I refuse to take anything out of the future of this organization out of a 66-yard field goal for a loss. I'm not going to let that affect how I view the organization's long-term success.
I mean, again, you end up losing this week on a 54-yard field goal. So
first team in NFL history to lose 2 games in a season on 50-plus yard field goals as time expires. It's week 5, Stroz. How many more times can we get this?
It's going to be a record-breaking season.
It already is. It is.
It's crazy. But I don't know, man. I want this team to win because this is what I said, I think, last week.
I want for Dan Campbell.
I do. I was telling Alyssa, I was like, if they win this game, he needs to get a Gatorade shower. He needs a Gatorade shower. The thing is, I don't want this locker room to turn on him. You know how it is. here's the thing. These guys play up for him. You said it yourself. You don't ever see these guys not going out there giving 100%. They try. They're all try-hard guys. Every single one of these guys is a try-hard guy. Most of these guys would be your third, maybe fourth string on a Super Bowl caliber team. Some of these guys that are starting wouldn't start on other teams.
Is there a wide receiver who'd play for the Kansas City Chiefs or Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
No, absolutely not.
The Chiefs aren't super deep at wide receiver, and I still don't know if the answer is yes.
No. There's like honestly, I think DeAndre Swift, Jamal Williams, and maybe some of the offensive linemen could play on other teams. Outside of that, you're kind of stretching.
Romeo Okwara, but, Achilles.
But as good as Romeo Okwara is,
he'd be a starter on a good team.
You think?
Yes.
I think he'd be a backup on a good team.
The difference is he wouldn't be a key piece of a good team.
Okay, that's fair.
On your defense, he is like the star.
He wouldn't
be that, but there's 11 starters. Romeo Okwara could start for a good football team. I'm fairly comfortable saying that. I don't know about post Achilles injury, but prior to it.
So my whole thing is, after a while, these losses just they start to wear, and at some point, guys tune out the head coach. And I don't know if these guys will tune him out, but I know when it gets to the point where it's like 0-10, there's gonna be a lot of guys who probably don't want to hear that noise. I want him to get a win sooner than later, just because that locker room needs some confidence. They need to instill a little bit of what he's preaching isn't just BS.
So there's a few things here. One, I if you've listened to the podcast, looked at me on Twitter, anywhere, I try very actively to not be the narratives and storylines guy. I think they play hard is often you can't judge that. We can't really tell that on the field. And I'll even say that it feels like they play hard. It certainly doesn't feel like they have the talent that they're showing. But when you watch the press conference after the game and you see Dan Campbell tear up, whether you thought it was awesome or silly, and I've seen both, mostly awesome, but I have seen some silly. Just human nature. I don't know how. There are 53 guys in that locker room. There are somebody in that locker room sees that and doesn't give a crap. Mm-hmm. But I think in general, when you see a leader who cares that much about your success, and not it's his success too, but I truly believe, at least what I watched, I believe that he wants them to get a win. He feels like they're giving him everything and he wants them to get a win. And I think that it's hard to believe when you see that guys don't appreciate that. I think that there's a few reasons here where I think he's in a lot less danger of losing a locker room than somebody normally would be. For one, I would point to what anybody who's in this team in the previous regime looked like. It's been very, very obvious people are happy with the change. And even for the guys who weren't in that previous locker room, they still hear about it, right? They hear about the differences. And two, paralleling to Jim Schwartz again, something that I really liked about him on just a leader standpoint was the belief that when you're at the bottom, you still need to appreciate the important moments. I remember after they beat Washington to break a 20-game losing streak or whatever the number got to, the players went around and were celebrating with the fans in the stands. I remember there's a picture of Louis Delmas sitting in the stands. There's guys just walking around giving high fives. And he said, look, we want to get to a place where this isn't a big deal anymore, but that doesn't mean it's not a big deal right now. And when they clinched the playoffs, it was very similar. In 2011, you had guys celebrating with the fans, and it was look, eventually we want to get to a place where this is the norm, but right now this is a big deal. I'm not saying Dan Campbell's the exact same way, but I feel pretty good that he is. Mm-hmm. I think that when they get a win, there is going to be a soaking it in and appreciating it and saying, guys, this isn't the long-term goal, but this is what we've been fighting for, and now it's building on this. And it doesn't mean he's a good football coach. I still have my skepticisms, and they will not go away this season. I don't think it's possible. But I'm here for the player coach to the level that he is. I got no complaints. I don't have any complaints about this season. And it doesn't mean I'm in on this regime because I just don't think the bar was going to move super far one way or the other. But I don't know how you could look at this season and complain. I don't.
What do you make of people who say it's not good or it's not good form for your head coach to be that high or that low?
I think I would tell you that he wasn't that high or that low. If I'm being honest with you, tears themselves are not a sign of defeat. They're not a sign of reaching a floor. I think that person probably doesn't embrace their emotions enough. he didn't lose control of himself.
No, he wasn't balling, but
I don't
he
think
got
those are the same
emotional.
things. Yeah, well, he's a fucking human being, and if your desire are for him to not have emotions, I just think you're being unrealistic.
But there are people who say that that's bad form for your head coach to be like that. You're like, you look at a coach like an Andy Reid,
emotionally unintelligent.
There might be some facts there. And look, I think both of us thought we both thought it was cool that he got emotional, that he got a little bit upset, a little bit worked up.
Who is opening up to you, being vulnerable with you, and telling you like, I just want them to win. I just they're fighting their asses off, and I want them to win. And your thought is, I don't like him being emotional. You're the problem. Like I'm going to be honest with you, Stroz. You tell me if you disagree with me. Like if you think he shouldn't be that way. I don't think I would get along very well, like on a personal level, with somebody who holds that opinion.
Yeah, I don't think you would. I don't. Like, here's the thing. I loved it. I thought it was cool.
And I don't think you have to love it for the record. I just think like if your thought is like it's not professional, like fuck you.
Right. My whole point of view on it was I thought it was great because I think that helps. It does a couple of things. I think one, it connects you to your locker room. Like you said, there's probably going to be a guy or two in that locker room who's kind of like,
of course,
what's wrong with him? But I think it helps connect you to that locker room. I think it helps endear you to a city that has basically been in the pits forever. Like, we don't need to recount the Lions' history. We all know it. I think that helps connect him to the city. And I know that's not super important, but I think coming off of what you had with a guy like Matt Patricia, who was essentially a cardboard box, this, I think, it's another layer of what I think is good for this organization.
If you were to build a list of what's important, it wouldn't be high. But in fact, I would say, no, it's not important. But not important and not valuable aren't the same things. Mm-hmm. Like, I think you can win a Super Bowl without that. But I do think having a culture around your team where the city embraces the team, like players have talked about how it can be hard to play in Detroit because like the fans are just so ready to like give up. Not necessarily boo you, not hate you, but just like give up on you. I do believe that it is probably harder to play in that environment than an environment where people just like they connect with you as a team and like there is a level of support. Like it's low. I don't think it's necessary, but I think it can be an add-on value. And I do think that, I agree with you. He brings that. I also want to say, I think a lot of people, specifically nationally, but locally too, thought that he was putting on a show when he was hired about how bad he wanted to be hired by the Lions and like how bad he wanted to turn things around. I don't know. I never believed that. I don't know. I think he is a very, he's either one of two things. He is either a very good actor who can convince you of unreal feelings, and those people exist. They get paid millions of dollars to make movies. Or he's just a really real, raw, emotional person who's going to tell you how he feels. And I think it's number two.
Mm-hmm. I think he's one of the more genuine guys, like one of the more genuine head coaches that the Detroit area has right now. I think
he's one of the more genuine coaches in professional sports.
Oh, for sure. He's extremely raw. And I think that rawness, I'm going to use the word endearing again, but I think that it's endearing.
If Dan Campbell won a Super Bowl in Detroit, I believe he would cry on TV.
He'd be a legend. He'd be a legend.
Obviously. But I think he would cry on TV.
And I love that. I think that's sweet. I mean,
yeah,
I know you're going to cry, and I know I'm going to cry. I'll probably call you crying.
I mean, like, let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. My point is, like, I do think he is one of the more raw and real, not even coaches, just figures in professional sports, and I appreciate it. I hope they find success because I think it will make the success more special. Mm-hmm. I think that we will enjoy and appreciate the success more if Dan Campbell has it because of the way that he opens up and connects.
The only issue and the only thing that I might throw a flag on with the way that this season is kind of going, looking ahead, looking towards the draft, and I think that at some point,
flag on the future.
Yeah, I am. I think that there's there's always a quarterback who rises, but right now, these quarterbacks that are supposed to come out, I'm not high on any of them. I'm not sure if you're high on any of them. And to be drafting as high as the Lions are, I don't know. And I know that you're a guy who is best player available. Doesn't matter the position, doesn't matter what it is, best player available, we need talent. I don't know if it helps you this year to be drafting number 1 or number 2, unless there is that Was it Chase Young out there? A guy out
there.
Well,
there is a premier pass rusher in this draft class, isn't there? I mean, we're too early for me to know it very well, but I believe there's a premier pass rusher in this class.
There's usually like a guy, but I don't know. Obviously, you said it when we started this. Quarterback is just awful right now.
Well, and I told my dad
position of QB is not very good.
I told my dad this. I think it will get more fun. Like, it's a little hard to watch. I still enjoy watching them, but it's a little hard to watch Lions football when you're like, I think losing is the best thing for them. It's hard. And I think like when they get a rookie quarterback, even if the team sucks, at that point, you're not worried about losing anymore. You want to see him win games. And unfortunately, it may not make sense to go and get that guy next year. So it could be 2 years of hard seasons like this. But I don't know. I have a hard time throwing a flag on the Lions. The Lions part of it has been perfect. And I'm also not ruling out the possibility that there's a quarterback worth taking. Yeah, it's too early to have. Like, Trey Lance wasn't being discussed as I mean, I guess that's not totally true. There was some thought he could be. But, like, nobody would have predicted Trey Lance was going to be the number 3 pick without playing a second game in the 2020 season.
For sure. I think the Jared Goff experiment has been, I think it's worse than any of us could have really imagined.
That's about what I expected. I hoped I was wrong, but
really? Like, I didn't think it would be this bad, man. Like,
I mean, like, I think part of it being this bad is that he's throwing to Quintez Cephas and Amon-Ra St. Brown. I don't think it would be this bad if the Lions had Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods, but I knew it wouldn't be good.
I don't know. I feel like we have
noodle arms aren't supposed to throw footballs.
It's true. I feel like the Lions have a solid offensive line. Yeah, it's banged up beyond belief. Like, Frank Ragnow now on IR. It's just at this point, the depth of this team and the best unit of this team is just getting smashed every single weekend. But offensive line was supposed to be the strength. Running backs were supposed to be the strength. And yeah, they look good. And that's supposed to alleviate a lot of pressure for your quarterback, who has his favorite toy in a tight end, who I think we both agree. I don't want to say he's elite, but he's what, top five tight end in the league?
I think so. I mean, I wish that he'd have done more the last couple of weeks, but I also know we're dealing with injuries. Specifically, he's dealing with injuries, and I think your quarterback doesn't help. But I don't love going through a few weeks now where he hasn't done much.
So he's like an elite weapon for an offense, and still you're getting what you're getting from him, whether it's fumbles, whether it's drop balls in the red zone, whether it's just bad play. You know, it's I don't know. To me, it's frustrating. It's absolutely frustrating.
I mean, yeah, no, I guess in a way I've almost moved on from frustrating because it was so fast that everybody saw how much he sucked. I expected to have more fun with the playoff game winning quarterback. By the way, can we reevaluate one thing real quickly?
Yeah.
Is it silly to judge a quarterback on his ability to win playoff games?
No, I don't think it's silly.
Okay.
I don't.
Why would you move on from Jared Goff?
I don't. Because of the performance that I've seen over the last 5 games has given me zero confidence.
Oh, so do we think he's regressed? Do we think he was better than this? Do we think he was a better football player?
Oh, I think the season that he won a playoff game, yeah, he was a better football player. Was he a better football player? Is that real? I think he was in a system that helped insulate him and protect him.
Yes. Bingo. He was in a system.
But he still had to go out there and perform. He still had you can't tell me that he couldn't go out there he played no part in any of that success.
If Jared Goff could do it then, Jared Goff could do it now. It is not quarterbacks are important, but it is not exclusively based on quarterbacks. And it's absolutely ridiculous that you could come out here after watching what Jared Goff has done with the Lions and tell me that it's still a fair way to judge a quarterback.
It's not all on the quarterback to get them to the playoffs, but I think it is a fair assessment of a quarterback that's part of the judgment of them, like what they can do. I think when you look at a guy like Aaron Rodgers, right? And I'm not talking about playoff wins.
Barely above 500.
Aaron Rodgers has been able to basically create players, right? Like Jordy Nelson was nothing without Aaron Rodgers.
Okay, let's fuck Aaron Rodgers. He's like a greatest of all time conversation. He's like one of the 5 best to ever play the position. Take guys who aren't like guaranteed fucking Hall of Famers out of the conversation. And who's the quarterback where you go, hey, he's a playoff winner? I don't know if he's like the
Baker
greatest
Mayfield.
because he's won a playoff game.
He's won a playoff game.
You know
and that team looks pretty good.
Yeah, the team looks pretty good. That's why he's won a playoff game.
The offense looks pretty good with him as a quarterback.
Yeah, Matt Ryan too, right? I shouldn't ask that because there's a lot of those guys. There's a lot of those guys where people just go, they won a playoff game, so they're good. It's just silly. It's silly. It's really, honestly, it's that simple. It's silly. It's honestly embarrassing. I don't know how you watch Jared Goff and think it's still a fair way to credit guys. It's about the team around you too. You got to have it both. And
I agree. I think that's part of the equation.
Don't like it. Brady wins.
Like playoff wins are not the finite. It's not just the be all.
That's the way they've been used.
It's not the be all end all. It's part of the equation.
The knock on Stafford has been not being able to win playoff game and not being able to beat good teams. Which also, by the way, funny how much that's changed in a year.
I know you keep posting on your Twitter every time he gets a win.
That's not accurate. I don't think I've done it in 2 weeks. I just think it's a silly. It's people want conversations. No, they won last week. They beat Seattle last week. They lost to Arizona.
You're right. They did beat Seattle.
It's fucking.
Yeah, Russell Wilson's finger exploded. Looked something like
that. Yeah, and you know what happened? Geno Smith scored a fucking touchdown on the next drive. didn't change anything. We've talked about this before. I said it last week. I said it 2 weeks ago. You do this, and you're not alone. A lot of people do this. You want to make things so simple. You want to make it so black and white. And one way to do that is to blame everything on the quarterback or give him all the credit. And it's pretty obvious. The Lions are 39 and 120, dating back to 2001 with any quarterback but Matthew Stafford.
That is
39 and 120.
That's fair for you to do that for whoever else. It's unfair for you to do that to me because I have had almost 180-degree turn on Matt Stafford. All right? I have come around and I've agreed with you that he's a pretty good quarterback. I have come around and I've said, look, it's not all his fault. Like, for years, he had a really horrible offensive line. Agreed, right?
Hold on. We'll stop this here.
His defense has been pretty piss poor. He had a couple of seasons where he had good defense and he had a Hall of Fame wide receiver in Calvin Johnson.
We're bipolar on Matt Stafford. Because even when we were doing the practice squad presents the throwback,
I hate Matt Stafford.
You wanted to not like him, but you struggled because you're like, I guess he was actually playing pretty well. Yeah. So you have moved.
I hate Matt Stafford. I don't like Matt Stafford. Why? I don't. I just don't.
Why?
Here's the thing. I've watched a lot of Rams football, okay? This year. More Rams football than I probably want to watch. I hope he loses every game. I just do. I don't have a good reason why I don't like him. I just don't like him. I don't like the way the media slurps him. I just don't.
I just read an article today on Turf
also
Show
hate
Time.
His wife. It's still a thing.
I read an article today on Turf Show's Time. The media slurps him. That was about Matt Stafford's ranks across a bunch of different quarterback articles. Where do you want to guess that he ranks among most NFL media people in quarterback rankings?
I would say he's probably top 5, definitely top 7.
He was 12.
Really?
Yes. There was a lot of talk that he could be the MVP when he first went over there because he was put in a much better situation. And Vegas odds say that he's still got a pretty good shot to be the MVP. Not only Vegas odds, Pro Football Focus analytics. And by the way, Pro Football Focus, writers, almost all think Matt Stafford's overrated. But their analytics say that he's the third most likely player to win the MVP.
Really?
Yes. Well, their analytics aren't talking about how good he is. They're looking at the situation.
Yeah.
That's a big part of it.
It's a huge part of it.
And it's a part that was not considered when he was here. That's all. Media.
Well, look, I think
that's been the case. The media started slurping him like 5 months ago.
So can you and I come to an agreement?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. You're not even gonna let me finish.
On this conversation, there's no way.
No way. This is what I'll say then. All right. And you can do whatever you want with it. You can ball it up, you can throw it away, you can flush it down the toilet, whatever. I think Matt Stafford is a good quarterback. Okay. I think he is. I would put him in the top 7. Right now, I'd put Matt Stafford in the top 7. I think he's a top 7 quarterback in the league. I don't think he's an elite quarterback. I think he's a very good quarterback.
I don't even know if I think he's a top 7 quarterback. The part of the conversation that always bothered me was the belief that he was a part of the problem. And I think that was silly. He was lifting you above what you were every single year. And what bothered me was the thought that you would not be a successful football team until you moved on from him. That was what bothered me. I don't need you to tell me he's top 5, top 7. I really don't know. He's definitely not top 5, and I don't think he's top 7. But I don't think you need to be top 5 or top 7 to be a part of the solution and not the problem. I think there's 15 really good quarterbacks in the NFL, and he's one of them.
That's something I wanted to say to you, but I forgot. That sucks because I thought it was going to be really good.
All right, well, I was waiting for you to do this, but I'm not sure if you were aware that I was waiting for you to do this. Do you want to move on?
We can transition, yeah. This whole show feels like you're wearing somebody else's underwear. So do you want me to do the transition?
It's your show. Your show.
Oh, it's my show. Okay. Well, off the heels of John Gruden basically being discovered from what? It was like 2011? I don't know. He's still working at ESPN.
Between 11 and I think 17. It was over a span of time.
That's crazy. Like the fact that who the hell has emails from back then? Like I don't save any of my emails. I actually go through and delete all of my stuff pretty regularly, but that's just because my mailbox gets full and clutters up and junks up.
I don't know. I'm assuming they were on a work server that
possibly.
I mean, because generally speaking, when you send emails from a work email, like they have access to all your emails. Yeah. It's not they log into your email, like they have a server.
Yeah. And those things have to be held for so many years for purposes. So I get that. And this kind of started before we had the cloud, right? Like 2009, was the cloud around in 2009?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I love that you call it the cloud. Like cloud. There are like multiple clouds. Like
there's like one cloud. There's one massive cloud.
One general idea of like data. Like, and some people are probably like, "What the fuck's the cloud?" But like, the cloud is just internet storage space, basically.
That's what it is. It's somewhere in the ether. Anyways,
I actually can't. You said the cloud is better.
I don't even know. So Gruden gets discovered that he's kind of a jerk in real life, and
it's a big surprise.
We had the question: have you ever sent a bad email and got in trouble for it, or have you ever had a bad butt dialed, or have you ever like missent a text message? That happens all the time. You'll think you're texting somebody, and you'll send something to somebody else, and you totally didn't mean for that to happen. Because I've got a story. Got a story to tell about one job that I had, and this happened twice. And the second time it happened, it led to me getting fired.
I think you may have shared this before. I don't know if it was on the podcast or out of it, but I want to hear about it.
I'm not sure either. I was working at a law firm. It was a foreclosure law firm. And I had sent an email to the girl who worked with me. It was basically her and I ran a department together. I was kind of her senior. And the email was titled Fannie Mae Crap. And if you don't know about mortgages, there's Fannie Mae, there's Freddie Mac. They're basically the two big head honchos in the loan industry.
How old are you?
So these are two government agencies. And we dealt with a ton of Fannie Mae and we dealt with a ton of Freddie Mac. Like I think most of the business at this law firm, I think probably 60% of it was Fannie Mae. The other 40% was Freddie Mac. So these were two monster accounts. They basically made up all of our business. And I sent her this email and she just wasn't paying attention. It was supposed to be just an internal document. She sent this email to one of the agents over at Fannie Mae because we would communicate with them regularly, like directly. And she sent it to him. And this led to a complete shitstorm. I got in so much trouble. I got pulled in front of like the owner.
Was you putting crap just like your way of saying like stuff?
Stuff. Yeah. It was just stuff. Because we had like a whole bunch. We had like
you weren't even insulting it. You were just saying like this is the stuff.
Yeah, that was it. It was like I didn't mean it like negatively. It was just like, hey, here's that crap that we've been working on, and that was all it was supposed to be. But she ended up sending the email out. I was the one who got in trouble because it was my email. Fast forward, right? So like I think maybe almost a year goes by, and I'm having this long chain email going back and forth with a friend of mine who I got a job working there, and we were super close back in the day. And we're just kind of going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And somehow we get on the conversation of my, like, not my team lead, but my team lead's boss. So like the manager over our entire department. She's brand new to our department, knows nothing about our department. Really and truly, the only reason she got this position was because she was banging the CFO, who was a total creep. And this gets brought up in the email. And we keep kind of going back and forth, and we start kind of talking shit about other people at the workplace.
It's on the work email?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Wasn't good. She ended up getting in trouble. Actually, there was an email that she sent to a friend of hers that ended up leading them to go through her emails, which they then found our email back and forth, which then led to me getting fired. It was an absolute nightmare. Absolutely. So I got pulled.
I want to know what that conversation was like.
So I get pulled into this meeting with head of HR and the manager who I'm talking shit about.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That could not have been comfortable.
No, it was totally uncomfortable. Like, I knew it was coming. Like, I just knew because, like, my friend was like, hey, this is what they found. This is what they talked to me about. So,
were you terrified or did you just accept your fate?
I just accepted it. Like, I knew it was coming. I was like, there's no way I survived this twice. Like, there's no chance in hell. And, like, I was pretty derogatory in these emails. The first
one was somewhat innocent. It's, like, comical. I wouldn't say crap in a work email, but you weren't, like, trying. Like you said, you weren't talking shit. You were just using the word crap as stuff.
Yeah. And
that was like lacking professionalism is like all that was.
For sure. It was just being so casual in a not casual workplace. It was so awkward because she's sitting in this meeting and I was like, well, this is going to suck. I knew it was going to suck.
Did they like go over the stuff you said?
Yeah. Like read through the emails in front of me. And like,
and her.
Yeah, she was there.
That's the worst part. I don't care about them reading it in front of you. Like they're reading the stuff that you want to say about her in front of her.
Bro, it gets even worse because I end up running into her and her boyfriend, who I was cool with her boyfriend because her boyfriend worked at the same place I worked at and she worked at, and that's kind of how they met while she was banging the CFO. I ran into them at a Red Wings game. If that wasn't awkward, like this was years later, and I was like, oh, this is weird, so uncomfortable. But yeah, they like totally read the emails in front of her, and I just sat there and I was like, yep, and they're like, so do you have anything to say? And I was like, no, not really. And they're like, so we're going to terminate you. And I was like, kind of figured, cool, let me get my stuff.
Okay. So I can't match those stories by any means. I will tell you, I'm curious to know if you'd have guessed this. I can be a gossip fan.
Like Gossip Girls?
I mean, I like Gossip Girl, but like I want the tea. Like I'm here for the gossip.
I want the tea. I love that.
I will tell you, I've definitely aged out of it. And it's not that I've aged out of wanting it. It's that I've aged into like respecting that it can be shitty. And not, so I like avoid it a lot more now than I did growing up. And I would tell you, particularly in high school, I can't think of one incident in particular, but I definitely was like sharing gossip back and forth with people about, like other people I went to school with, and at least once or twice accidentally sent it to the person who I was like, I had a problem with thinking about who I was talking about and then typing their name in the two that like who I was sending it to. So I definitely sent people some like information about themselves.
How did you get out of that? Like, how did you like at that point? You've got to be a really good bullshitter.
I don't know that I did get out of it. I think it was just like, oh yeah, like we were just talking about it. We weren't like talking shit. We were just like talking about your drama. It happened more than once. I really don't remember anything specific. What I would say is like, this was high school, and it was at a time when like texting was probably very first becoming like everybody does it like nonstop. And so like you were kind of just getting introduced to this world where you would say a lot of things that you weren't comfortable saying in person. Like I didn't really, that experience isn't something that necessarily happened a lot. Like now that's just a fact of life. There are people who are very comfortable saying things, on Twitter or in a text message or whatever that they wouldn't say in person. Like this was the introduction to that. So you'd act cool with people in person who like over text message, maybe you weren't super cool with, but it just didn't want to have the awkward experiences in person. In fact, there was specifically one girl whose name I remember very well, Taylor Demise, who was like the queen gossip. I don't know what word to call her. Just she like that was her whole fucking life was like sharing bullshit about people and wanting to get it from you. And I was really into it in high school for a little bit, and eventually like it just got me into enough trouble that like I entirely stopped talking to her. I will say it's something that still terrifies me to this day. It terrifies me to text anything bad about anybody because I'm terrified I'm going to type their name in and send it to
the wrong person.
Yeah. But the more specific one that I do remember, and I think I have shared this here before, back in college, I was trying to get an internship at the Ticket. And I, in the introduction, wrote, hell, Mr. Insert name here. I missed the O. Not super important, but like, if you're going to make a mistake somewhere in the email, maybe don't make it the word hello. For a professional, like, I'm trying to land an internship. And for the record, he got back to me, but it took so long that by the time he got back to me, I already worked at the company.
Were you like, hello, Mr. Karsh? And he was like, no.
No, actually, he got back to me to get me an interview, and I was unfortunately already working in promotions.
Yeah.
And I asked if you could do both, and the answer was no. So I just never got to do an internship with them. Anything else? I feel like there is, but that's the only one that really. Oh, I did. I'm not going to get into the details of when or where, like any of that, but I may have once applied for a job through a work email.
How did that go? Did you get in trouble for that?
They didn't know.
That's interesting.
I mean, they're not like monitoring it close.
No, they're not. I mean, like, unless there's a reason, they're not going to go basically dumpster diving through your inbox.
But I have done it. And you know what's funny is I immediately also applied through my personal email for the sake of, like, I don't want them to reply. Like, imagine if they reply to my work emails. Like, I want them to know, like, that wasn't great either, right? You're like, oh, fuck, like, this idiot just emailed me. Like, that doesn't look. I think, like, it probably didn't stop me from getting hired, but I can't imagine they liked it. That's
so weird. Like, I've been in a position before to hire people, and that would be so strange to me to see it come from.
But what if you had it from both? Because that would make it clear that it was an accident.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, I'd be like, okay. And I would probably look at the date stamp on it.
Oh,
like,
it was
what time did you send
seconds
this?
Seconds later, dude.
Seconds later, yeah.
It was like immediate.
Yeah, I would just think it would be a mistake. You sent it from the wrong email. Dude, that's interesting.
You ever gotten any, like, accidental, like, or bad or... Accidental was what came to my mind. What I thought of was, like, growing up and, like, typing the wrong name in. Mm-hmm. Like, I just, like, began to... You got to have those things, right? Where, like, something happens and your, like, heart skips a beat. Like, me, after having my wallet stolen, I tweeted this the other day, like, if I misplace my wallet and can't find it for a second, like, my heart just starts beating so fast. That's what it's like when I'm just, like, staring at the name that I have typed in if I'm talking about somebody.
So, I don't know. So, I'm not much of a gossiper. So, I've not really had...
I also used to talk to like 10 people at a time. Like in high school, like that was
I already know how you do it.
No, I'm not as bad as I used to be.
Still, it's like 5 people.
Okay,
maybe 4.
I mean, I'm in group chats, and my group chats will pop off. But like, if my group chats aren't going crazy, I'm not like doing anything crazy.
Mm-hmm. I have like what I've done where I've made a mistake is it's mostly been applying for jobs, and it's happened a couple times where I will basically go through, I'll write up my cover letter, get everything situated, and reread it one time and send it feeling like it was good. And then I reread it a second time, and I'm like, oh my God, so many grammatical mistakes.
Read it out loud.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I basically type like I talk, and I talk in one continuous run-on sentence. It's like nothing but ands.
If you read out loud, though, you don't recognize, like, yeah, this doesn't work.
No, most
reading out loud is like a very, like, easy. Like,
yeah, most of the time
we're not trying to make this the practice squad. Helps you with your resume, like it's a very basic rule.
Look, you can come to this podcast for life advice. We got you, or work advice.
We can wrap it up. I don't think either of us has a ton of stuff to. I mean, it's technically your call, but I don't think either of us have a ton of stuff to share there. I just thought, in light of the stuff that Gruden said, I thought it's been funny. There's a couple media members who are like, "Oh no, everyone's gonna run to their sent email box and be deleting shit," and like I would love to like figure out what the worst thing I've sent in an email is.
Yeah, I would love to know what I sent as the worst thing. I mean, those 2 stories that I sent you or told you were probably the worst. But I wonder if there's anything else that I did that was kind of outlandish and crazy.
The worst thing would probably be like homework that I emailed myself. I used to email myself homework to print it. Mm-hmm. There's probably some stuff that I emailed homework to myself when I was in like high school. That I don't know, the quality of work isn't very good. That's probably the most risque thing in my email.
I wonder if you could find that. Like,
I could.
Obviously
I know
not.
100% sure.
You could?
Yeah, 100% sure.
Find that, send it to me, or find it and tweet it out.
Oh my God.
Do it.
I'll see what I can find that I'm comfortable sharing.
That would be great. All right, well, I think that's going to do it for this episode of the Practice Squad. Whatever the craziest situation where you got yourself in trouble, let B and myself know. Tweet us at Adamar, STROZ, at Brendan _Riley.
Brennan Riley _.
Brendan Riley _. And